It's no secret that, when in need of money, someone is willing to go to extreme lengths. I'm not morally corrupt enough to murder, but I was still desperate to do things close to that. The divorce had been hard on me, and I wanted to get out of that house and just live on my own. For that, you need green, and my job wasn't paying enough for me to just wander off and change my address so quickly. In retrospective, maybe it wasn't so wise to look for a job on the dark web. Those pay the most, though, and I didn't want to spend my time caring for some kid or old lady, only to get paid $10 an hour. I started browsing whatever forum I could find, and filtered my search so that I wouldn't have to kill anyone or sleep with anyone. After a while, I came across offerings of package deliveries and such things. Deliver this to this address, show up to this house, etc., etc. It was all right by me, but I didn't have a car, and I couldn't just walk for miles with suspicious boxes in hand. I finally came across this listing: museum worker needed, $100/hour, temporary exhibition hosted somewhere in the suburbs. I checked the address on Google Maps and found some abandoned warehouse at the edge of town. I'd driven by it a few times, back when the family car was also my car. I thought I could give it a try. Maybe it was some contemporary art stuff, some voodoo statues or cursed items. I didn't believe in any of that. So it really wasn't a problem to me. It said I had to be there during the week, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sundays were off. The exhibition would run for around 3 months. I quickly added up some numbers: $100 an hour, for 6 hours a day, for 6 days a week, for 3 months. That would certainly cover for a deposit in some second-hand car, I figured. That would be enough to help me get by. I ran through the possibilities of weird implications this ad might have. Maybe the museum was a front for human trafficking, drug dealing, or other illegal things. I don't even know why I said maybe. That was surely the case. I just had to be careful and not look into things too much. Or maybe the exhibition was hosted by some eccentric millionaire who wanted to display his dubious antiques. Either way, $100 is $100. I replied and got an instant response. Next thing I know, I was hired. With the little money that I had, I bought a bike and some headphones to help pass the time. I arrived to the warehouse one Monday at 10 a.m., eager to get the job started and get my money. I wasn't expecting it to be so empty. The warehouse was huge on the inside, but the items displayed were very few. Mostly paintings, covering the walls, and some wooden statues, extremely tall. They almost reached the ceiling of the warehouse and I couldn't really see their faces. All of them were sort of bent down, almost as if they were giants watching so as not to step on us. Some notebooks were on display, too. Most of them had drawings or scribbles. They weren't extraordinary. I really couldn't tell what I was looking at. I saw some unknown surgical equipment. It looked almost medieval. Next to it, a pair of ordinary scissors. I thought, at first, that it was ironic, or just a piece of art. But the washed-out lady that had led me in there told me that those particular scissors were authentic and extremely important. I couldn't really tell what age the lady was. She was Asian, her skin clear and luminous. Based solely off that, I could have guessed she was in her teens, but her eyes moved around a lot and had a certain darkness that you only gain with age. Contrasting to her face, her hands were wrinkled and stained. Her hair fell in long threads on her back and was tangled towards the end. It looked unwashed. The most interesting part consisted in the last 3 items, displayed on the opposing wall to the entrance. If I sat at my desk, near the entrance, the wall was almost invisible, hidden in shadows. I didn't understand why the lights were so dim. The lady explained that it contributed to the atmosphere of the exhibition. One of the items was a low, round wooden table. The plaque in front of it read "The Hunger." The table was chewed and clawed at the edges. I think it used to be square, but the wood had been bitten off and chewed to the point where the corners were rounded. The teeth marks on the table were human. I figured it must have been some art piece. The other item was a pair of shoes. The plaque read the shoes that walked home. They were old, made of leather, and worn out in impossible places, as if whoever had worn them had walked in circles continuously. The last item was an empty pedestal. Its plaque read, "Painter, do not look when occupied." I stared at it a while. Such an interesting concept, I mumbled, noticing the lady's unblinking gaze on me. "Yes," she replied. "Don't look when it's occupied, though. How would I know? You'll see. It's a really easy job. You don't have a lot of duties, and you earn so much money by basically doing nothing. You must understand we value your discretion and lack of curiosity the most." "Yes. Thanks," I responded quickly. Suddenly, I realized I didn't really want her to leave. That didn't stop her from traversing the warehouse and shutting the door behind her. Without any other formalities, I was left alone with the art. My job was to sit at the desk and greet visitors, sell them tickets. I noticed that the stack of tickets was relatively small. They didn't really expect visitors. As I imagined, the warehouse was at the edge of town and nothing really promoted this exhibition. No one was going to come. I decided I would put on some music and study the paintings. I got up and moved in front of the first, titled "My Mother." It showed a beautiful sea landscape, the crystal waves melting into the bright shore. It was the type of scenery you'd find before a storm, so bright and yet ominous, as if it knew what it awaited. I couldn't find any trace of a woman, though, right when I was about to move to the next painting. My neck tensed up. It's impossible to describe it. The sudden alarming urge to run. The panic that builds up in your chest. I was afraid to turn around, and yet I hated having my back turned to the room. I took a deep breath. "I'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3, I didn't turn around. I kept locking eyes with my mother, afraid to act on the impulse of running back to my desk. After torturous moments where my heart was threatening to jump out of my chest, I did a swift turn and then plunged back to my desk. "Phew," I said out loud. "This place is creepy as fuck." "Why?" "Because. I don't know, it's just fucking odd. I wouldn't pay money to come here." My throat was so dry it was itching. In the cold air, drops of sweat began gathering on my forehead. My eyes darted to various points of the room. To the paintings. To the statues. To its corners. Who had I spoken to? Who even was that? I stared at the closed entrance door. "Who is that?" I got no answer. "Fuck off. Just answer me." "I heard you loud and clear. I know that someone is in here." "You have to," I began hopelessly. "You have to buy a ticket to get in." I heard a clatter in the back of the warehouse. The hunger. The shoes that walked home. The painter. Did the pedestal refer to the one who had made the paintings? I stood up and made my way slowly to the back. I kept looking at the floor until I saw the edges of the hunger. In the dim light, I could make out the shadow of the pedestal, and on it, I saw the shadow of a figure. It looked humanoid, like someone crouched over. I couldn't tell which direction it was facing. I was so cold. I stepped back, slowly. The way I came. At last, after what felt like billions of years, I sat down on my chair. I spent the remaining time of my shift there, too disturbed to listen to music. At some point, I heard the faint sound of wet footsteps coming from the back. You know when you're little, and you begin recognizing the walk of your family members as they're coming up the stairs? How you can distinguish between your younger brother's upbeat walk and your father's slow, heavy steps. These footsteps sounded as if those two patterns were combined. Almost like limping. They went on for a few seconds, then faded without reaching a certain destination. I swore to myself that I would quit the next day. However, when I saw the bank transfer that night, I thought it wasn't really a bad job. It's not like I was being chased around or hurt in any way. I just had to sit down. I dreamt, however, of those footsteps reaching me at last. It's Tuesday, and as I'm writing this, I can hear them faintly in the back. I just hope that they appreciate my discretion. I wonder if the hunger and the shoes that walked home are connected in some way, but they don't pay me to be curious.